Boston Tea Party, and Intolerable Acts, with Grant
and Andrew. In the beginning of the 1770s, people were angry with Britain over the 7 Years' War and heavy taxes. The 7 Years' War needed to be paid for, and Americans felt like they had done their part. Conflict was common among Americans over the taxes. The Sons and the Daughters of Liberty were gaining power over time.
The British East India Trading Company was almost bankrupt at this time. The British government allowed it to have a monopoly over the colonies to keep it afloat. It had 17 million pounds of unsold tea. After Britain gave them monopoly over America, even with cheaper tea, the Americans were still angry because it was still supporting the principle of taxes, which they believed was a trick.
The colonists protested the new tax and monopoly and forced most tea ships to turn around, except in Boston, where Governor Hutchinson refused to back down. He had the ships stay.
The Sons of Liberty stormed the ships at night and dumped 342 chests of tea into the ocean. The colonists supported the Sons in this act.
And turn this harbor into the biggest cup of tea in history.
The Sons were dressed as Native Americans, and their motto was "No taxation without representation." Hutchinson then retreated to Britain.
That's called taxation without representation, and it's not fair.
The British Parliament was angry and issued the Intolerable Acts. Officials could be tried in Britain for crimes in America, and the Americans assumed they would just get off scot-free. Also, there was the Quartering Act, which allowed the British soldiers to be quartered in American homes without their consent.
The Boston Port Act closed Boston Harbor. This hurt the economics of the time because Boston relied on the harbor for their goods.
Along with the Intolerable Acts came the Quebec Act, which gave Canadians religious freedom in 1774. It also gave them a lot of land, including future American land. This made the Americans very mad because Americans were predominantly Protestant, while Canadians were mostly Catholic.
The Boston Tea Party and Intolerable Acts are significant because they represented the beginning of the end of British rule for Americans. The emotions of the Boston Tea Party would be the same emotions for freedom that would pen the Declaration of Independence.
In review, prior to 1773, the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, and other acts led to a building of conflict in the colonies.
The British East India Trading Company had a monopoly on America's tea. The Americans thought it was a trick to force them to pay more taxes.
The Boston Tea Party led to the Intolerable Acts, which led to the demise of the British presence in the colonies.
Looks like it's going to be a free country.